Hey there, can you hear me well?
Yes. How are you?
Nice to see you. I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's try this.
Let's go on to it.
Okay, let me try to share my screen then. I've done a modest presentation here.
You look tired, by the way.
Do I? Sorry about that. It's not on purpose. I'm not really tired right now. It's morning
Oh,
here.
Okay. We see your slide. Good.
There you go. Can you see
Worker
that?
proposals. Yay. Nice.
Yeah. Several people have already talked about worker proposals here, why we need worker proposals, why would we want to have the worker proposal system in place.
Yes.
So my plan here is not to talk about why we need worker proposals, but how we can actually have a system that's going to be used for its intended purpose, and that's not going to be abused in the various ways that it could be abused.
Okay, awesome.
So we all, or most of us, probably know that Daniel Warrimer has proposed to scrap the worker proposal system completely and remove the 4% inflation. And I think there's a good reason for that. I mean, Daniel hasn't explained in detail why he thinks so, but his occasional remarks on Telegram have suggested that the reason is that he doesn't believe that this enormous fund that we have with the 4% inflation can be protected reliably from abuse. And I kind of agree with that, because this is a very hard problem, especially if we consider the initial idea from the beginning. The idea was that we have proposals coming in for different kinds of projects, for example, to build a DApp or to do some marketing for years or something like that. And token holders vote for these proposals to approve them. And the proposals that get the most approval, according to some voting rules that we implement, they get approved and get funded. And that's a problem, because mostly because we have too few people voting. We can see the statistics for BP voting, and from what I last looked, I think it was somewhere around 22%. And that's something, I think that's kind of high. I expected it to be less, to be honest. People are more engaged than I thought they would be. But for worker proposals, this might be way worse. Even if it's 22%, it's low, but it might be way worse, because we would get hundreds or even thousands of proposals coming in. Can we realistically expect every token holder to research all of them, to vet them, to track their progress? I mean, that would be kind of equivalent to every citizen in your country, for example, voting for every government spending decision. I don't know about you, but I would say that this is not a reasonable expectation. So we can expect a lot of voter burnout or voter apathy on worker proposals. Maybe not from the very beginning, but down the line, I'm pretty sure that if this is the system that we implement, that this is what's going to happen. So like I said, this is a hard problem, and it's open to various kinds of abuse. The most obvious abuse that can happen is for whales. I put this in quotes, by the way, on the presentation, because I don't like the term whales. I would say large token holders instead. Whales seems a little derogatory. That's an interesting fact I'm going to say. This term comes from the gaming industry, and it refers to very wealthy people who spend their money just buy much more than what other paying customers do in gaming. And that's why I don't like this term to be used for our large token holders. Our large token holders are the ones that are most invested in the system. They have the most tools, they have the most skin in the game. And we should expect them to be sensible. Nevertheless, we can expect them, some of them at least, to try to abuse the system for financial gain. Because if we open the system for voting, like I just described, by every token holder, we would be faced with an impossible dilemma. We have to set some voting rules. If we set the threshold for accepting a proposal too low, so that anything actually gets accepted with our low voter participation that we expect, then the large token holders can actually abuse the system by creating their pet projects or fake projects. And this is not going to be good. We can see that somewhat happening already in the BPs that are elected, that are in the money, not the top 21 probably, but there are some very shady BPs being elected to receive EOS compensation for the number of votes that they have. And that's not good. And for worker proposal, we can expect it to be much worse. So that's a bad problem with this system that would be really hard to solve. And the other big problem is that proposals that get accepted might not deliver on their promises, because it's just hard to oversee their process and to keep them from just taking the money and running, or actually trying to do the project but failing, because projects in the real world need flexibility in their funding, in their milestones. Sometimes things change. So the good VC, the good investors, actually they are flexible and they change the milestones, change the funding if needed. And with such a simplistic system, that's not possible. So we can expect a lot of projects to just fail. So these are the problems with this system. And I agree with Dan Larimer that if this is the system that we implement, it will be abused, and it's probably better to scrap it. But I also don't believe that this is the only system that we can implement. By the way, I feel like I'm talking to myself because I don't see anything. Am I still in here? Hello? Okay, I will assume that I'm in here and you guys can hear me. Okay. Okay, thanks. So what are the options? What are the systems we can build? There's a lot of suggestions that have been done by the community, and I'm going to go over quickly between the most sensible of them, that at least that I think are the most sensible ones. One of them is to have some kind of insurance and to pay projects upon completion. That would imply that they would get funding from a third party, and this third party would charge a surplus to get these proposals in. But that's again, it also has a problem, because how do we know that this project is actually delivered something good? Who checks that? I mean, they proposed they would do something, they did something, but is it good? Is it good enough? We don't know that. That's just one problem of this option. The other option that's been proposed is to use some kind of strong identification in order to provide more transparency and accountability for the proposals that come in and for the people voting as well. But I have a big problem with that. I have a personal distaste of that option, because you see, I live in Bulgaria. Some of you have probably heard of this country. It's in Eastern Europe. It's pretty corrupt, and it's really easy to buy ID, a real person ID here. And that's not the only country where it's easy, but here it's pretty cheap. I think it's actually cheaper than creating an EOS account right now. So strong ID is not strong to me. And blockchain is kind of the Wild West. So we can expect that what happens in countries like mine would be actually worse on the blockchain. So that's why I personally don't like this idea. Maybe down the line, when we have a good reputation system, we can rethink that. But right now, I don't think it's viable. Another option that has been proposed is to have some kind of centralized committee that actually decides which projects get funded. And to make sure that this committee is fulfilling the token holders' desires, the committee members get elected and they're accountable, they can be replaced, etc. But I mean, with this system, I actually have a separate slide for this one. Yeah, what are the problems with that? Yeah, it's obviously open to corruption. I actually think that, well, it's similar to what current governments do, but I think we can do it better than our governments because we have great tools and great community, and we can ensure transparency and accountability on chain. But there's still chance for corruption, misuse of funds, and just plain out inefficiency. That's the biggest problem actually with this idea, is that it becomes kind of a gatekeeper that's hard to replace, and it lacks the free market competition that actually drives efficiency and makes the best companies get elected and doing the work. So I guess this approach also has some problems. But what I think might work is kind of a hybrid approach between committee and token holder voting. Going back to the beginning, as I said, the problem is that we will have voter burnout and voter apathy. So what we can do is we still give voters the chance to vote for how the funds are managed, but we limit the amount of things they need to vote on. So instead of voting for every single proposal, I think that we could do kind of a free market competition between several committees that compete for being the best committee to distribute funds to individual proposals. So we still have centralized entities, but there's not one of them, there's several of them. This is kind of inspired from depots, actually. Like instead of every token holder being able to produce blocks, we have delegation, and block producers are just a few of them produce blocks. So here we can have just a few of these committees approving projects. And I actually think they need to be less than 21 because just to make sure that if there are a few of them, there will be a lot more under the scrutiny of the public's eye. And it will be easier for the token holders to replace them because they will see that one committee is not doing well. So if we have like 100 committees, I'm sure that some bad apples will slip into the cracks. But if we have 5, I'm pretty sure that token holders will be able to make sure that they're honest and they're good, that the best ones are selected. So each committee can have its own process for selecting individual proposals for funding. And some of them could poll token holders so they can replicate the initial idea and see if that works. If that works, that's awesome. But we don't get ourselves constrained into this idea. So the free market competition between the committees would ensure that the best model emerges. And the other good part of this is that committees are easy to replace. So the problem with centralization is not that it's centralized per se, It's that it's just it becomes a gatekeeper that's impossible to replace, and potentially eventually stops providing value. And in this case, these committees will be easy to replace. So, and they will compete. So they'll be heavily incentivized to provide the maximum possible value. They have to be paid, of course. And yeah, that's basically the idea. And one other thing, yeah, I think that we should not hurry to scrap the worker proposal system without even trying it. We can get just a small percentage of the fund that's being accumulated and test a system like the one I'm proposing and see if it works. If it doesn't, we don't risk too much. And eventually, gradually, we can increase the percentage, we can increase the number of committees, see what works, and hopefully get a good system. That's what we should do, because right now we have no data. And to get data, we need to try something. Well, thank you. That was my presentation. If anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
That was awesome, Todor. Thanks.
Thank you.
And yeah. So well put. Nice explanation. And I think we should have more discussions on public WPS channel, right?
Sure, I hope for that.
Yeah. Yes. So we can find Todor, David, Doghouse, Chris Poland, in public WPS channel. They're all active, and there has been a lot of discussions, right? So hopefully we'll see a lot of WPS supporters for the next few weeks.